DDG episode 118. My name is Dave, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
How's it going, Dave? How's it going? I don't know if I complained last year or last week on air about my hair, but I got a haircut. You still didn't notice. Every time I get a haircut, you never notice, Dave.
Yeah, sorry. I can't keep up with
Angela, how do you deal with this?
I can't keep up with 3 kids, my wife, and you, okay?
I'm your problem too, man. Come on. We're business partners.
For the record, it's a little bit too dark to see your hair. Like, you kind of just blend into the background.
Yeah, like, we're recording later than usual, so I don't really have
with everything you're wearing, you're just a floating head on the stream. So
yeah. Let me. I can adjust this.
All right. So speaking of the stream, we are live on Twitch, twitch.tv/digitaldaysgaming, where you can watch us live at random times lately when we record, because both of our schedules are a little chaotic right now. And you can also subscribe to there if you have, if you want to use a Twitch subscription, or if you link it with your Amazon account, you can subscribe with Twitch Prime. You do have to check that every 30 days, or however often you are or aren't on Twitch. So even if we're not live and you're listening to this, you can go to our channel and hit subscribe. We don't have to be live, so that's always super helpful. As well as just subscribing to the podcast in general on whatever podcast services you're currently listening to us on. I think we've had some new listeners or some influx in the numbers the last couple weeks of talking about the Bungie acquisition and the Activision Blizzard thing. So we've definitely hit some people's feeds, or maybe are showing up on some more searches. But leaving a review is super helpful. Going to the website and subscribing that way helps us also, if you aren't subscribed already. And then leaving a review, preferably with words. Spotify allows you to leave reviews, but I think you can only give it ratings. I don't think you can write anything. And I think you can actually rate individual episodes. So
I think so, but the overall one is the one that you want to do.
And then if you don't listen to Spotify, if you don't use Spotify to listen to podcasts, but you use it to listen to music, just search us on there and fast forward through the episode and then review it.
Yeah, which is funny because like Spotify does make sure it's like you have not listened to this episode or this show before you can review, which is nice.
Click an episode, fast forward on your screen, and leave a review if you can. That'd be helpful. So, all right, we're going to throw it over to some news.
Yeah, not a ton of news over the last week or so, but some stuff is starting to roll. We're in the middle of like video game release season now. Like the spring releases, Horizon hits this week. We're like 2 weeks away from Elden Ring, so we have a bunch of stuff coming out. But that means we also have announcements coming shortly because we have no idea what the rest of the year looks like. So Capcom has begun a countdown website. So they started a website with a countdown that ends on February 20th. This happens to be the same day the Street Fighter Pro Tour season finale happens. So a lot of people are speculating that this is going to be Street Fighter 6. For some anyone wants to know, Street Fighter 6 came out in 2016, or Street Fighter 5 came out in 2016, and the last character that was released was in November 2021. So they supported that for quite a while. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite released in 2017. That did not have that long of a tail for downloadable content. So those are probably the 2 guesses you would probably make at this, but Street Fighter 6 probably makes the most sense.
I don't think it's 6. I think it's going to be like Street Fighter 5, like Turbo Championship Edition or something.
They already did like 4 of those.
Okay.
So I think they're tapped out for doing that.
The main reason I don't think it's 6, I wasn't aware of like all the anniversaries and stuff that you just put in the thing, which is a very compelling information. But 5 was heavily produced or paid for by Sony, and so I don't know if they can, like, I understand that maybe their financial situation since 2016 has changed. Like you mentioned last week, like the success of Monster Hunter and success of the Resident Evil franchises, even the remakes, of doing very, very, very well, to maybe where they can do a Street Fighter without PlayStation. But I don't know, like, if there's even a place for 6, because I feel like the 5 did well, but it did not hit the casual audience like they wanted it to. My understanding of it. So.
It lagged behind 4 in terms of sales. It was the second best-selling Street Fighter series of all time, but second behind Street Fighter,
which is super fascinating since it was really only on PlayStation and PC, right?
Yeah, and it had a really rough start. Like it wasn't until like
Yeah.
they got into season 1, season 2 that it kind of found its footing.
Mm-hmm.
So they have reason to move on.
Right, and that's why I just don't know if like this would. It's kind of the same way I feel about Mortal Kombat. Like, what else can you do, like to a fighting game? You know,
especially the Street Fighter 5 had the most characters, I believe, that they've had. That's why I put our notes. I put the Marvel versus Capcom thing because I think that's always a possibility. Especially Infinite did not do well.
I guess I would lean more towards that way, just riding the success of essentially making these characters look like the MCU characters, like the movie characters. You know.
Yeah, and then especially at the time, a thing that like hurt Infinite is they were working directly with Disney, so they had to drop all of the Fox-owned characters, and they couldn't do the X-Men. I believe maybe 1 or 2 X-Men ended up making through the DLC, but at launch it had the smallest roster compared to previous games, especially 3 Ultimate. So I would imagine Capcom wouldn't mind taking another shot at Marvel versus Capcom, especially now that they would be working with Disney, who now owns all of the Marvel properties. It would make their life so much easier, and people would probably be excited. And I'm sure they would want to get away from the stank that Infinite kind of left on the franchise.
Yeah, because I almost feel like right now, if you were going to do something, as crazy as it sounds, like a new Street Fighter would almost have to be free to play, right?
I was thinking that too. I was wondering, like, do you go to the free to play route and just see what happens?
Suck the seasonal turnip dry, like
and then just hope that because Sony bought Evo, they're gonna like really do something big with Evo now that you can get away with like, okay, Sony's gonna put a bigger investment in Evo, make it more of a name household brand. Maybe we do free to play to coincide with that, and then just get as many people in as possible.
This would have to be on Xbox, right?
I think so. They've done too well with like Monster Hunter and Resident Evil to take a step back, unless Sony jumps in and is like, "Hey, we own Evo. We really want to make this happen."
The only thing that I would see is like, and we just had one, but the only thing that I would see like that would make me go, is if for some reason we hear about a state of play on the 20th, to where like the state of play goes live, very similar to when this countdown timer ends. Like, if those two things happen to correspond with each other, because we typically don't. What do we know about? Like 4 days sometimes for state of plays. Like we hear about them on Monday, and they're usually like on a Thursday.
Yeah, and this is a Sunday, I think. So it wouldn't be surprising if they do the announcement on a Sunday and or say find out more information at a state of play the following
that's valid.
Wednesday.
Yeah, I just don't know if Sony would let Capcom have the first say. You know, if they're
would,
footing
because it's at a tournament.
Yeah. Okay.
And the Evo acquisition last year or 2 years ago.
Because didn't they announce 5 at a PlayStation Experience?
Yeah, which obviously would be ideal if they still did PlayStation Experiences. Because the tournament would actually, it wouldn't conclude, but it would be like the semifinals took place at PlayStation Experience.
I think it concluded, like it ended Sunday night. It was going on like the whole weekend, like the 1 or 2 that I went to.
Yeah, I just don't know what part of the tournament it was.
Yeah.
In terms of, I think it was like a semifinal for the Pro Cup. So I'm kind of leaning towards maybe like a Marvel versus Capcom, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is Street Fighter. To your point, if they want to take a little bit longer a break between Street Fighter, maybe they finally are like, hey, here's Darkstalkers, here's some of our other fighting games that people really want that we can put out and doesn't require a huge budget.
Right.
Because I don't think you can get away with, because they already technically re-released or remastered 4 right before they did 5, which was a confusing thing because I think they did 4 on PS4, and then shortly after that, that's when they brought out 5, and people were like, well, I'm just going to keep playing 4.
Yeah.
So depending on how they want to do, but because of the, I would imagine Evo will probably be back in person this year. Like we might be at that point.
With some caveats, but yeah, I could see it being in person for sure.
Yeah, with some caveats, but because it's the first in-person one in 2 years, might be worth them being like, new Street Fighter, let's go big for the big in-person when the energy is going to be there. So there's a chance.
Watch it be like something completely like off the hilter that we don't even know about.
Well, that's why I'm hoping like that this, if it happens to be one of their like smaller fighting franchises, that would be really cool. But watch, it's just here's season 6 of DLC characters for 5.
Yeah.
So we'll find out. Luckily, we won't have to wait too long because it is on the 20th, which I believe is a Sunday.
Yeah.
Other news: Cyberpunk 2077 released at the PS5 and Xbox Series X today
For free. Good job.
For free. So smart delivery takes care of it over on Xbox. PlayStation is kind of a shit show as usual. Every time there's one of these upgrades, it's always like chaotic of like it's not working for me. I know for me earlier, like they said, just check your library, it'll be there. It's not there for me. Put the disc in, reinstalled it, still don't have the option. Seems like that's something that they'll probably fix within the next day or two, but every time it happens, super annoying. This is the new next gen, current gen, whatever you want to call it. It's going to have two modes: performance mode, which is going to be 60 frames and 4K, and then there's a ray tracing mode, which is going to be locked at 30 frames with 4K and obviously ray tracing. And then there's other improvements and fixes. You might want to look at the patch notes because there's a ton of stuff because they are still fixing this game. Like that, this game is still in the process of being fixed. It just now has more platforms to be on. So we'll see how Digital Foundry breaks it down within the next like couple days. But they've improved the crowd stuff because at one point they had to basically patch the game to where there's not many pedestrians, there's not much crowding happening to where the game kind of looked like a ghost town, but it sounds like they implemented groups and crowds and pedestrians again for this. So we'll see how this all ends up shaking out.
But this game didn't run well on PC either, right?
It ran well enough, but it was still buggy and it still had foundational issues with it. You know, like the cops AI was still really bad. They despawn behind you. There's a lot of fundamental issues with this game that they're still trying to fix because they're calling this the 1.5 patch, and they got the 1.5 patch on PC as well. So they're still fixing things. They just have more platforms.
Is this going to make you play it?
No, because so I didn't have the worst experience when I was playing it on PS4, but nothing in the world grabbed me. Like it all just kind of seemed generic. And then until they fix like some of the AI issues, I don't want to play like a lackluster game.
Yeah,
unfortunately,
I was curious. Like I saw some stuff on social media today, and I was like, "What if this game's still like $10 physically?" Because I have a physical Xbox now. I was like,
It is on sale for $24 right now. The PS4 and Xbox One version of the game, which in theory you should be able to easily digitally upgrade that. But again, if you're on PlayStation, might have to wait for them to fix whatever bugs they have with issuing licenses. How much
it is at like GameStop or something?
Yeah, I think it was like $10 like 2 weeks ago. Yeah, so I think you'll be fine finding that or a used copy without any issues. I have it on disc, so I will. Once it issues the game to me, I might start a character again.
I guess maybe I'm with you though. Like tell me when 2.0 is ready, and then then we can talk about it. Like 1.5 is not enough, you know?
Yeah. Especially we saw the roadmap. We know there's patches coming, and then sounds like there's probably going to be a whole new set of issues that they're going to have to fix on these new platforms.
This is just I feel like this is just a formality for them though. They got to release this. They've got to release because I think they said they're doing a Witcher thing, like something similar to The Witcher. And then like they got to get those two things out the door before they even like utter the words multiplayer.
Which I feel like they like kind of canceled the multiplayer thing, or at least tying it to this specific game. Like that it's going to be its own standalone thing.
It'll be Cyberpunk something. You know, colon something would be the multiplayer mode, and then that at this point in time should probably be free to play, and then cosmetic the hell out of it. You know, if you want to try to like rebuild this brand or franchise at all.
The shooting in this game was really bad, so like the idea that they're making a multiplayer of this is I'm just like I don't see how that's going to end up.
Well, this was always the concern that we've had, like you know years ago when you and I were talking about this. I was like, look, I've never played The Witcher, but can can CD Projekt Red do a first-person shooter? And the answer right now is no.
It's the game moves like a PS3 era game for like how first-person shooter feel was in that generation. And there's just too many good first-person games. There's too many good first-person RPGs.
There's some people on our Facebook group that are pretty excited about this, though. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, this definitely will have its fans. I don't know if I'm willing to invest in this game, especially after everything that I did play, like probably like 10, 12
Yeah.
hours.
You're talking about invest more time, not necessarily more
Yeah.
money, but just time.
Yeah, just time, because there's so much stuff to play. That I'm just don't see it.
Yeah, but I'm glad they're getting it out, and I'm glad they didn't fumble. I mean, systematically they fumbled the release, but I'm glad they didn't say it's $20.
Yeah. This next bit is Microsoft. They have claimed that they will release Activision Blizzard games for PlayStation, specifically Call of Duty and other major titles, through their current agreements with PlayStation and beyond. So Brad Smith took to like the Xbox Newswire or Microsoft's blog specifically and made this proclamation that PlayStation fans do not have to worry about losing Call of Duty or other major franchises, which I guess makes sense for the term point of like this is still a franchise that produces billions of dollars, so they probably don't want to lose that. Also, they need to say whatever they need to do. They need to say everything nice they can say while being investigated and looked at by the FTC. So this makes sense.
Yeah,
from that.
I think this is them playing nice and saying they're going to do ABC, and they'll do ABC for a couple of years, whether it's 2026, 2027, and then I think you'll slowly start to see them try to like see what we can get away with. Like let's release this next game. Maybe it won't be a big game, and like let's just see what happens if we don't release it on PlayStation. Let's see what the outcry is. Oh, it was really quiet, because maybe it like we've talked about, and I keep saying, and I've said it too on social media as well, is like they can argue eventually over time that if and when this Game Pass app becomes a thing that works on Fire Sticks and Apple TV and all that stuff, like it's more accessible than ever. Like you don't have to even have a console. So like I think that they can try to like pitch it that way. But I don't know. Like it's so weird because of what Xbox is trying to do. Of like, does this mean that like World of Warcraft is? They make that, right? Yeah. World of Warcraft is coming to console. And a couple of people that I've talked to are like, can a console run it? Yeah. Can a player play it with a controller? No. So and then it's like, oh well, like just like Xbox can support keyboard and mouse. Yeah, but like the primary player that plays an Xbox console is sitting on the couch with a controller, obviously.
Well, I like anytime they bring up World of Warcraft, I just feel like that, especially if they bring current World of Warcraft, I think it's just there's no point to ever bring that to consoles. Like it's already there. It's not dying, but it's kind of coasting probably forever. But this makes sense in terms of like Overwatch 2. It's something Overwatch has been kind of beaten down really bad right now, and it would probably hurt to exclude PlayStation from that, player base, because you want that game to be as successful as possible. So you're going to want the biggest player base you can have access to that game. So this totally makes sense for Microsoft's perspective to continue those games. But to your point, what you said, where you think they're going to experiment eventually with like, well, let's try this game. I think they're going to do that right away. Where like, yes, the big games, Call of Duty, Overwatch, they will come to PlayStation for forever. But if they bring back Singularity or something, those will just be Xbox exclusive.
I also think that Microsoft will stop the annualization of Call of Duty.
Yeah, I could totally see that too. Especially
so you might only
you
might get a new titled Call of Duty like every 3 years, and they'll like, and then they'll just they'll do what has worked already. We've seen it work. Modern Warfare multiplayer was fantastic. The seasonal content people were engaging with, and then Cold War came out, and it's like, okay, how do you run them both at the same time and Warzone? So I can see, like, obviously we already, like we said it before, like Warzone will be on everything possible because it's free to play and they want the engagement player base. But Call of Duty Cold War 2 might not be coming until 2028, and you might not see a Call of Duty game for a while. But they could take Treyarch and say, okay, make a shooter of this, and then like, oh, this feels like Call of Duty, but it's not. It's Alien, it's Crossfire X2, like I don't even know. Like it's something entirely new or different, that a new IP that they're doing, or resurrecting an older one that's like I can't think of anything right now as an example of something from Microsoft, like from 5, 6, 7 years ago or whatever. But like maybe they get them like what would a non-Call of Duty game look like to Treyarch if they go to Treyarch and say, hey, let's see what you guys got going on. Like we've always talked about, like a space shooter, like or something like that. Like, and that's the stuff that could not be on PlayStation. Sure, Call of Duty that comes out every 3 years, whatever, you can have it.
Well, if they decide to give Quake another go and they give it to a Call of Duty studio, you can say Quake isn't that big of a franchise, so you can get away with making it Xbox exclusive. And the acquisition still works out for Microsoft because having a Call of Duty games day one on Game Pass is still a hell of a proposition to put to the fan base.
And the Blizzard company is PC. So like
it's PC outside of like Overwatch, which is still their primary console is PC, or primary platform is PC. So I totally understand why Microsoft will keep Call of Duty on there just because it looks good, and also they need to seem like the good guy in terms of not seeming like a monopoly,
right?
Because they can't go into the hearings and be like, so you're going to take the number 1 and 2 best-selling games, because it's usually this year's Call of Duty and last year's Call of Duty that are 1 and 2 on PlayStation,
and then Warzone's high revenue. So
so they can't rip that away.
But I've seen something similar to this. Whatever. I've been gone for like 15 years or 12 or 13 years, so I'm sure that this is not like surprising. So most of you know that I worked for Foot Locker prior to my previous job, and Foot Locker purchased a company called Foot Action, who's another shoe store. And initially, when they were going to go purchase them, the court said no, you can't, because Foot Locker Incorporated owns Foot Locker, Kids Foot Locker, Lady Foot Locker, Champs, and Eastbay are all underneath the Foot Locker Incorporated umbrella at that time. The court said no, you can't have this many things, and they're like, okay. So they waited, I don't remember how long it was, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, as Foot Action was struggling as a company and was closing locations and got smaller, and waited and purchased them when they were at a small enough number that the judge had told them, like, no, you can't buy them until like this, this, or this. And then they purchased them at that number and then proceeded to open more stores. So, like, right now, it's like you said, they're trying to get this through the courts. Yeah. Once it gets through the courts, like, yes, Phil Spencer has been very good about staying to his word, and what he says publicly normally happens. But this could be completely different once it's through the door.
Yeah. It could go down as like, we'll release our annual Call of Duty game on PlayStation, and then it's like, well, now we're biannual, so that doesn't count for what we previously
We're canceling the annualness of Call of Duty.
It just doesn't make sense financially. So there's ways that Microsoft can probably get around this, but in terms of same way where PlayStation acquired Bungie, and they're gonna let's just let Bungie do Bungie things, and it's because it's just revenue that they can collect from Bungie. So, and it's Call of Duty's the same way.
It's a win for Sony. It's win-win for Sony, like with the Bungie thing. I think I said this before. I don't know if I said this on the show, but if Bungie fails at whatever they're making next, it's Bungie's fault, because Sony's like, well, you have creative control. If Bungie succeeds, Sony's like, well, look, our money helped you succeed. Like,
it comes down to that. Yeah, they'll take credit when they can.
Yeah, for sure.
Every company's like that. Yeah, but I guess if you're on PlayStation, you can rest easy knowing that the next couple Call of Duties are going to be fine, and probably for a while, Call of Duty will be coming. It's just when they decide to break the Call of Duty train up is when you probably have to worry, because you might not have Infinity Ward working on all of the Call of Duties.
Yeah, because it's Infinity Ward, Sledgehammer, and Treyarch, right?
And then Raven.
But Raven's just mostly like auxiliary maps and stuff, right?
I want to say they did the current one.
Okay.
Vanguard. But it's so hard to tell with how they split that stuff up. But they will probably not have all 4 of those studios consistently working on it. Toys for Bob is sure as hell probably going to get off Call of Duty
right
when his deal's done. So a lot of things will change with that franchise that will affect what they are currently saying today about that franchise. finally, the last bit of news that we have, Nintendo, they did a direct. We talked about them announcing a 40-minute direct that was focused on the first half of this year last week. So we will go over some of the highlights. I just put the basic stuff here. So I'm just going to run through this list. Dave, stop me if you want to say something. Xenoblades Chronicles 3 was announced and launches in September. Splatoon 3 will launch this summer. Nintendo Switch Sports announced and releasing April 29th. All sports will have online play. This is basically just a sequel to Wii Sports. I want to talk about this.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say,
but go for it.
Does this appeal to you?
Oh, for sure. Like, I don't know why. I loved Wii Sports, but like, soon as I saw bowling, I was just like, yes, bring me this with online play.
This appeals to me because of Angela and Owen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like being able to play and you know, even my wife wasn't really paying attention to the direct, but either she was on social media later that night or she was like on something where like, or she was reading an article about it and she's like, they're doing Wii Sports with the Switch. I go, yeah. She's like, cool. You know, like, so if this is remotely successful, this is even like half as successful as Wii Sports, like it's gonna be absurd.
Yeah, I can't wait for this, especially when they showed bowling and then there was like, oh, there's gonna be all these people playing and it's just gonna be like a survival of like bowling.
This
that
is the stuff
cool.
that brings people to your house that don't play games. Here, check this out. You know, like, and you can, you know, like you bring somebody to the house and you can play. It's not as like, I don't feel it's going to be as iconic. Just it can't be as iconic as the Wiimote was at the time. Yeah. Like, you know, like you put that on your coffee table and people are like, oh, you have a Wii. Like, you know, like it's not like like the Switch isn't like that anymore at all. But I still think this is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, this is going to be fantastic for at least getting people together and playing these games that everyone can pick up. The only one that looked dangerous is like the soccer one where you can put the Switch controller on your leg and you have to do kicking motions. That seems like that's a recipe for broken TVs again, which I look forward to those YouTube videos of people launching their controller.
You got to move up in the world. I look forward to the TikToks, okay?
Oh, yeah. Digital Days Gaming on TikTok.
Actually, has nothing to do with that, but it would just be a TikTok or something like that. But
yeah, but this was probably the thing that it's crazy. This is probably the thing that got me the most excited, like in terms of all the announcements that were done, is a fucking Wii Sports spiritual successor, which is I just didn't expect this to be a thing.
I wasn't sure if and again, I didn't play Skyward Sword with the motion controls. Like in my mind, I'm like, can the Switch really do this? Like, yeah. It can. Like, you have Ring Fit Adventure, which is probably the closest thing to this.
Yeah. They are actually pretty damn good. They might actually be better than the Wii just because technology's moved so much since then. But yeah, no, it's definitely something that I didn't pop out of my head right away in terms of, can it do this? Because I just don't use the Switch like that. You know, I usually just have a controller in my hand.
It's just going to make Joy-Cons. It's just going to make Joy-Cons sell faster. Because you need more.
Yep, and break faster. Other games announced it. So this whole direct, outside of a few announcements, was like, hey, this game's getting re-released on the Switch. So we have No Man's Sky coming to the Switch.
That's still cool. Like, it looked cool. Like, I don't care for No Man's Sky. Like, I've never played it, but this is like the little engine that could and just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah, and this is the full No Man's Sky experience, so all the free expansions that they had released are going to be coming included with this. We got Portal 1 and 2 coming with, you know, split screen co-op.
Okay.
It's just kind of cool that like Valve is still porting Portal to things. Crazy one, Mario Kart 8 is getting DLC through 2023. This expansion can be acquired by itself or through the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack, and it will add 48 tracks to the game.
Can you get Mario Kart 8 with the expansion, or you only get the DLC?
What do you mean?
Like, do you get the whole game?
No. So this is just the expansion. This does not include the previous season passes that they included. So this is a 48-track expansion that is being added to Mario Kart 8. So if you're talking about the whole Mario Kart experience, you still need to buy the game, whatever season pass they release for it, and then the 48-track expansion pack that's coming.
That's a lot.
They're But this is at least coming part of that expansion pack, which this is the first time that I looked at the expansion pack for Nintendo Switch Online, which is that $50 a year service, where I was like, oh, maybe this is what finally gets me to go in there, because N64 games definitely aren't doing that for me. The only downside is it looks like these tracks are actually ports from the mobile game, just kind of up-resed on here, but it makes sense in terms of the amount of tracks they're adding that they would.
Yeah, it's not all 48 tracks though. They're bringing some of the ones from like N64 and Double Dash.
A lot of those were already brought over to the mobile game. So
I see what you're saying. So they're taking the tracks from the mobile game and porting them to the Switch, not redoing them from the 64 and putting them in the Switch. Okay.
There might be one or two since there's 48 of them, but the ones that they did show, people compared them to the mobile game and were like, oh, those are totally just the tracks from the mobile game.
Okay.
Up-resed. So that's the only kind of bummer, just because there's differences in those tracks and also just how they look. Seems like a slight downgrade.
This is the same thing. Like, this game is obviously Mario Kart is Mario Kart and it's fun and it's great to play. I don't own Mario Kart 8 on the Switch at all. I would like to, again, to play with Ange, but I think Owen would get pissed.
Just disable blue shells.
At the age that he is right now, I think he would be very, very upset. So
I need to track this game down. I think I may have given my copy to my little sister, so I might have to buy a digital copy, because hearing this announcement, I'm just like, you know what? That's a lot of tracks. I kind of want to.
Yeah, the variety is always great in terms of like people like, oh, I don't want this track again. Like, if you got 48 tracks plus whatever's already in the game, like that's got to be close to like 60 tracks.
It's probably around 70 at that point.
That's appealing to me, like going through like a multiple different races without, and of course you'll be like, oh, we're not doing that track, but it could, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And then they're saying now, I've read articles saying that 9 is in development.
Yeah, 9 is in development. That'll probably be for a new platform, just because like Mario Kart now, after this track expansion thing happens, they're going to end up in the same spot that they are with Smash Brothers. It's where they release the ultimate version of that. There's no way they can top that until they're on a new platform. And there's new gimmicks.
Like, for me, like at this point in time, like, and I, we talk about this with the confusion and the what tracks will be in part of the expansion pass and season pass. Like, just make $100 version of this game that I can buy and not think about it anymore. You know,
that's basically what they're going to have to do, especially because you have like I don't know how many seasons Mario Kart 8 ended up having, but I remember they eventually added, like, I think Zelda to it. So that there's a lot of stuff that you're going to have to pick up to have the full Mario Kart 8 experience.
Make a box that says Mario Kart 8 Ultimate and let me buy it. Like,
and not that's
have
probably
to worry about all the other stuff. Like,
and that's probably what I would be most interested in doing as well, since I have to rebuy it. Metroid Dread got a free update that adds a rookie mode and a Dread mode.
Awesome, so I can play it now. No, I'm just doing
I mean, you did. That's how you got through Horizon.
The
rookie mode is the easy mode, and then the hard mode, Dread, is a
that's the mode that I'll play.
Mode. Yeah, for sure. And then there'll be more updates coming later on. And then there's just a couple other announcements in there, but those are the ones that I wanted to talk about. And then also they did have a nice look at Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which comes out March 25th.
That game looks really cool. Like the fact that like Kirby can like suck a car up and turn into a car. Like,
I'm excited for this Kirby game. It's been a while since I played a Kirby game. At least the Epic Yarn was the last Kirby game I played, and I know there's been some since then, but I'm kind of looking forward to this, and it's coming so soon, which is so nice about Nintendo, is they kind of just make announcements and follow through with those announcements.
Yeah, like the Wii Sports, like being announced like February 10th and coming like 6 weeks. Like,
and there's a beta this weekend.
I didn't know that.
Free beta this weekend.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I just like the way Nintendo tends to function. Yeah, there's stuff like Bayonetta 3 they didn't talk about. They didn't talk about Breath of the Wild 2, but that's fine. At least
But they told us, like, hey, we're talking about games that are coming out in the next 6 months. And
I think they have a game every and they have a game like every month, basically, that is interesting. So, good on Nintendo. This is something I would love to still see from like Nintendo and especially Xbox. Xbox needs one of these so bad with all the studios that they have. and they just don't really do
Yeah,
much.
like if they just spoke once a quarter and be like, here's the next 90 days of Game Pass stuff. Like, just even something like that. Like, yeah, sure, you'll find another surprise announcement of like, similar to like Outriders or whatever. But like, hey, like, here's confirmed Game Pass for the next 90 days.
Yeah, something like that. Instead of me just being like, oh, they randomly tweeted 8 games are coming. I still miss those announcements from time to time.
Yeah, they need to have a better platform of this. Like, yeah, they can, like they get a bunch of stuff on social media because like there's one of those 8 games. It's like, oh my god, this is great, or like, oh, if you haven't played this yet, you should play it. And then some other people are like, well, that's a 7-year-old game. Yes, but if you haven't played it, you should play it. Like that, you can't ride that horse forever. So.
Yeah, and like even though this was like a weird direct because again, most of the games were just mostly re-releases, ports, some crazy stuff that you wouldn't expect to be coming to the Switch, like just all the Squaresoft RPGs that are coming to it that were announced here. Ton of stuff.
It's the same thing. Like I'm getting irritated now because I think I saw this today or the other day that Ninja Turtles game that's coming that I'm super excited about. They're like, oh, Splinter can play now. I go, great. When is it coming out? Yeah, but Splinter can play. When is the game coming out?
I think they did put a date on it.
Oh, I missed it then because I've seen a couple things and I thought I checked on it. But it's just like versus Nintendo. That's like, hey, we've got Wii Sports for the Switch. Oh, cool. When is it coming out? Next month. What? Like awesome. Or like here's the DLC for the tracks, or here's like we didn't know that No Man's Sky was coming, and we didn't know that Portal 1 and 2 are coming, and now they're literally gonna be here. Like so
I gotta look for the date on
that's fine.
Turtles.
Same thing with the Metroid Dread. It's cool to see them continuing to mess with development. Now that we were just talking about like, do the sales figures like scare Nintendo? Apparently not. Like they're still like at least supporting it. So
yeah, this and they were at like just under 3 announcements like this will get them over that hump and get more people engaged, especially because a lot of people complained that the game was difficult. Add an easy mode.
I'm totally joking, but I haven't tried it either way. So
yeah. Though as someone who has put some time in it, an easy mode sounds kind of great for me.
Yeah. I just want to experience the puzzles and experience the story and see what like it's fine. Like sometimes,
especially when the game's been sitting in my backlog for like 4 or 5 months now, I just want to put it on easy and then just knock it out just to experience it. So,
and then if you find that it's like you get good after 3 or 4 levels, all right, let me bump it up again, and then you either get your butt kicked or you do fine. And if you do fine, you just keep going. If you get your butt kicked, you put it back down and keep going. Like
just find whatever works for you. And for me, since I kind of dropped Dread after putting like 5-6 hours into it, I'm willing to play easy. Like, I honestly have no idea how much time I put into that game. It might be like 10 hours, but there's a chance it's in reality because it was difficult.
It takes 10 hours to beat it, though, like that from what I'm hearing. But
it
could be if you're struggling a little bit. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it was definitely kicking my ass. I'd have to look at my play times.
Yeah. So I don't believe anything's been delayed.
Nothing important, at least.
Okay.
Don't want to insult any games there.
Right. And what we're playing and watching, mine's a little short. I've got some stuff going on at home and some stuff going on with work, some more changes at work for me. So I did, obviously, like I completed Horizon Zero Dawn, and I've started to mess with the Frozen Wilds. I don't know if the story of what's going on in Frozen Wilds is appealing enough to me right now, only because it feels... well, first of all, like the extra section, I think I talked about this, but the extra section is just there, and it takes place before the end, the events ending of the main game, which is kind of weird to me. Like, and then it's just more of, I don't feel like it's like I haven't either gotten to the point or got and maybe there's another story beat in there that once I hit it, I'll be like, okay, cool, I'm interested again. Like that could or couldn't happen. But right now it's more Horizon with snow. Like, so it's not grabbing my attention. I've been dabbling with Destiny right now, just doing some things to be ready for next week. A couple people like helping them, because they're coming for Witch Queen or they're coming back and they want to make sure that they're up to speed. So we've been doing a little bit of that, a little bit of prep stuff. Nothing crazy. I'm not going as crazy as some of my other clan mates with their prep with like all 3 characters loaded up with bounties. And I saw some interesting stats, like a year in review from Destiny today. Like it was just showing some lifetime stuff and some stuff since Beyond Light, and you can actually see like as much as people criticize me, and it is what it is at this point, but my Destiny playtime is definitely lessened a lot over the years, and that could be just because of the changes to the game, and like the commitment to the game isn't necessarily as much as it used to be, which I think is a great thing. You can go super deep into it and commit to it significantly, but for me, it's like, okay, I can jump on here on Tuesday, Wednesday for 2-3 hours, and then come back next Tuesday or Wednesday and do the same thing again and be fine. You know, and I've been doing some of the stuff that I want to do. That probably will change with Witch Queen for about a month at the most, I expect. So my plan is like I'm not going to pick up Horizon Forbidden West until after I've kind of rode the Witch Queen train out a little bit. So, and I've also like kind of just been taking a little bit of a break. You know, I did put a significant amount of time into Nobody Saves the World, a significant amount of time into Horizon, and more time right now into Frozen Wilds, and I'm kind of just in this, kind of just taking it easy with games because Witch Queen will takes up some of my time, and some of the stuff they're showing is really cool, and I'm really interested in.
So the Beat 12 games is kind of on hold for a little bit. Also, there's not much happening right now.
Well, no, I'm on pace.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I'm actually not even counting Witch Queen, and people are telling me, oh, if there's a trophy, if you get new trophies, like it counts. Like I'm not even counting Witch Queen. Like if you ask me if like when I complete the Witch Queen campaign, I'll probably call it like game 2.5 complete. Like because I don't, you know, you don't ever really complete Destiny. Like I'm not naive in this thing. Like I play Destiny. Like no, it's like, but I've got plans. Like Dread is afterwards, and Death's Door is still there, and and Forbidden West, like, and I think that I could get Dread and you know I could get Forbidden West completed however long it takes me, and then Metroid Dread and Death's Door would be like boom boom, you know.
Yeah, so. Especially if you really get into a rhythm with those last two ones.
Right. So, hell, there was and then like I saw this trailer for like Unbound last week, and I put that in the Facebook group and Discord as well. That looks super interesting. And then I went to that website, like how long to beat, and it literally said like it's like 27 minutes to beat the game. And I'm like, I don't like. I was like 27 minutes. I was like, what is that? Because it gave me like Ori vibes and stuff, you know. So, but it looks pretty cool. I watched the Super Bowl. Cool that Matthew Stafford won. It was a good enough game. You know, there for a little while, but I could kind of see what was happening. I'm like, oh, okay. And then like the commercials have just gotten weak. So I think just marketing has changed. Like with streaming.
Yeah, I heard most people were just playing which celebrity broke my hearts about NFTs. Because I heard there's a lot of crypto and NFT commercials this year.
I thought the halftime show was really good. I like that's kind of like my age group for that, and you know I thought it was really good. I hated all the stuff afterwards about like, oh, they were supposed to do this and they did this. Like I don't care, I don't want to hear about it. My wife thoroughly enjoyed the halftime show, so I thought I think it was cool that 50 Cent was there too as a surprise. We didn't know he was going to be there, and I thought maybe we'd see one or two others, but we didn't, and it was good. Like I enjoyed it.
I like Dre pretending to be mixing live. Like he kept that gimmick.
I will say that I was happy. I will say I was happy that it was not lip synced. Like you could tell it wasn't lip synced.
Yeah.
Like I know,
but it just cracked me up when I turned it on.
Mary J. Blige fumbled a little bit. You know.
Yeah.
And then I've been watching. My wife's actually reminded me of it. Like I've been watching Kim's Convenience on Netflix.
Yeah, it's a great show.
Yeah, so we're having, you know, that's kind of just the show that we put on when, you know, we don't want to really watch anything for a couple hours. You know, you can kind of, like the same thing, like the 20 minute or 25 minute episodes of just one after another after another after another. So that's been good. And we've been working on the house, you know, kind of purging the basement and stuff again, just more things of trying to get some things under control. I got a lot of stuff coming up. I got nephew's wedding coming up, son's wedding coming up, college graduation coming up. I was like, I got some things going on. So you might have to reach out to a guest or two pretty soon because I might be MIA for a little bit, actually, the more I think about it.
Yeah, we'll figure that out when it happens.
And we watching, like while we were working in the basement, we were watching tons of Boy Meets World. Just same thing. Put it on, something to have on in the background while you're working on stuff, and just something you don't have to pay attention to, you know, because we've seen it so much. It's a good show. It's a really good show. All right, what you got?
Yeah, for me, still going through Sifu. I was basically just going through the trophies. I'm like, is this platinum doable? For me, maybe there's one trophy in particular that's going to take way too much time for me to perfect the combat to accomplish, which is beat the game under 25 years old. That seems difficult, but there are some trophies that are going to require some grinding, some stuff that I actually just had to look up what they meant because the game does not explain the concept at all with what the trophy's asking. But it at least showed me like, okay, I'm gonna have to replay this game and treat the bosses just a little bit different, which then will hopefully allow me to level up more, and then I will be able to accomplish the super difficult beat the game under 25 trophy. So I'm kind of just casually going through that.
It's supposed to be getting some difficulty modes too, right? I was reading.
I think so. There was a pretty large patch, and then there was something that they said was coming soon. But for the most part, I just want to get this done as fast as possible because this is also one of those games where you can't really take breaks from because you're just going to be out of the rhythm of it. And I need to beat this before I stupidly buy Elden Ring and put time into Elden Ring before quitting, because Elden Ring seems more and more like something I'm going to pick up, and I don't know if I can balance Elden Ring, which is also a game that you need to be in a kind of rhythm for
and a mindset
focus on. Yeah, so I don't know if I can balance Sifu and Elden Ring at the same time between my other like video game obligations. So still going through Sifu, still love the hell out of that game. Appreciate it more as I level up my character and unlock more moves and just get to see how everything works. And then also seeing where some of the mistakes I made were in terms of like what I focused on unlocking as I get a different move. And I'm just like, oh, this is game changer. Too bad I already beat the game. And I'm just, doing cleanup. I have started Uncharted 3, about it halfway through my Uncharted playthrough for Uncharted 3. I'm actually liking the game better than I remember, but everything I remember from Uncharted 3 is I hated the back half of the game, and I'm approaching that, but I'm enjoying the first half way more than I remember. So not looking forward to getting to the parts of the game I don't like, but still love that franchise. And I do plan to see this through and play all the Uncharted games, at least hopefully before the end of March, because I'm kind of burning through Uncharted 3 like way faster than I was expecting, because I think it is longer than 1 and 2, but I'm hitting that point where I'm hitting like the landmark moments a lot better, like the marquee moments. I'm hitting that faster.
It helps when you have a more basic understanding of the puzzles. I feel like you're like, okay, like it takes a second to be like, I remember this, like, like
yeah. Well, it's funny though, like how much stuff I actually do remember, because like Uncharted 3, I think I played the game twice, like when it first came out, and then once probably like a year after, and just hitting spots where I'm like, oh, I know exactly where this is. Oh, there's a bullshit treasure over here. It's kind of hard to get. I remember where that's at. So I remember Uncharted 3 way more than I remember Uncharted 2, and Uncharted 2 is like my favorite game of the franchise. Yeah. So I don't know if
it's kind of crazy how like certain things just have an effect on you and some don't.
Yeah, and it might be just I struggled in certain parts of Uncharted 3 at the time and probably had to replay them so many times as opposed to Uncharted 2, where I just can breeze right through stuff. We did get a code for Dying Light 2 on PC. I only dabbled a little bit into that game, though they already have launched like some free DLC for that game, as they promised to do over the next like 5 years. So hoping to spend some serious time with that over the next couple of days. I kind of have the weekend off, so I'm hoping to just get in there. Since it is on PC, I have to get into like a different mindset when I play. I will use controller, but it's not sitting on my couch. I'm in an office chair, so
it's not propped up on your elbow, feet up on the couch. Like
yeah. I'm focused, foot away from my screen, so I just got to get into a different mindset.
Stream it.
Maybe, I don't know. My PC is definitely getting kind of old, so I'm gonna see how my game can like really run it when I get into more dense areas.
I keep forgetting you have a one PC setup. Never mind. Sorry.
Yeah. And then another game that we got a code for, Action Arcade Wrestling. This is a 90s throwback looking wrestling game. This is on the Switch. It is previously been released on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, so this is it finally coming to the Switch. This is a retro style game that is very bare bones in terms of what is available to you, but that is kind of going with the vibe of the game. Like when they say arcade in the title, they mean it to where
Mm-hmm.
it's really just a roster of wrestlers and then just different modes you can put them in, or different match types. So, one-on-one, tag team, triple threat, battle royale.
It's a quarter eater. It's a quarter eater game. Like
Kind of, yeah. There unfortunately there's no like story mode. There's no gauntlet mode. It's just here's a bunch of match types. Here's a roster of custom made wrestlers provided by the developer. I think there's 30, and then they also have a tool set where people can upload their creations. Though there is no tool set in the game. Basically, the tool set is on the developer's website on PC. So people can get really creative, and the people that have been uploading wrestlers have done a really good job of capturing real life wrestlers in this art style using the move set. There is a ton of effort, you can tell, put into like the animations and a different type of moves, so wrestlers do feel pretty unique from each other. The control scheme is pretty simple, but there is a lot of depth to it. Like when you first load up the game, there's like a 30 basically maneuver tutorial, basically where they run you through like, here are strikes, here are different type of strikes, here are different type of grapples, and you kind of have to go through it. You can skip it, but it's really well done in terms of like, here is everything you can do in this game in like a 5-minute tutorial, and it's broken down into like 30 sets basically. Really good way to get a grasp of everything, because they want you to be able to just enjoy having matches, because there is no like story or gauntlet mode or anything like that. So they just want you to get a grasp of the combat and then enjoy it. And most of my enjoyment has come into just going to the created characters and downloading them to see what the communities make. And the community's made a bunch of random stuff. I mean, you have your AEW, you have your WWE wrestlers being made by people, but then you also just have like, there's like 1 or 2 people that are just really into comic books, and they made pretty much every Marvel character you can imagine. And then there's someone making all the DC characters you can imagine. So it's just been fun to just check out what people have been creating, and then just throwing as many of those wrestlers into a match as possible, especially despite like the way how the game looks in terms of like, it's not like a graphic powerhouse. It holds a steady frame rate on a Switch, even when you throw a ton of characters in the ring, which is like really impressive.
that's awesome. Yeah.
So I'm enjoying that. It's one of those things where without that little bit of incentive to play in terms of something to get me in there in terms of like a story or a federation mode, it's just one of those games you kind of just pick up, see what characters are available, mess with the character, and then you kind of just put it away for a little bit. But for a $15 game, I think that's reasonable. Yeah. It's just something to mess with. And I think it does have like up to 4 players local. So if you just want to show some wrestling friends and just have random matches of Bret Hart versus the Juggernaut from Marvel Comics, it does that for you. So I'm enjoying this. I'll be putting more time into it just to see how far I can go technically, because you can throw a lot of wrestlers into the ring at one time. So I'm just interested to see
Michael's
the
like, how
breaking
many
point
until I break it? Yeah.
yeah, basically, I just want to see how far I can go, because they do tout like, hey, we hit our frame rate consistently. So I just want to put that to the test. So that's it for playing. Still watching the Nana Blu-ray release. That's been kind of our go-to thing every night. We've kind of hit that point in the show where it's just pure depression. So perfect for Valentine's Day, because it's just one of those animes. It just kind of, you get into like episode 30, and then they're like, oh, for the next 18 episodes, we're going to make you feel like shit. Jeez. And so you just kind of just watch that for a while. And we debate anytime there's like a possible happy ending of like, let's just stop here. We don't have to keep going. They'll just accept this as the canon ending and not continue the show. And
then you hit play next episode and you get hit in the jaw.
Basically, yeah. To where it's just like, sometimes we just look at each other like, oh, it's a shame that the show ended here, but at least it was happy. And then we let the show keep going. And it's like, oh no, sadness. So that is pretty much all I've been watching. I did yesterday. I was off from work, so I did end up watching a lot of Simpsons episodes when I was waiting for Sarah to finish with her work. To where I ended up just loading up a random season, and then I think I ended up watching 4 hours worth of Simpsons of the good seasons.
Nice.
And I keep forgetting on
That's
where
all on Disney Plus now, right? The whole seasons, or the whole Simpsons stuff.
Yeah, all 32 seasons are on Disney Plus. Yeah. I usually stop around season 12 or 13, and I probably will do that again if I do continue rewatching.
Start season 13. Oh, I remember why I stopped now. Click.
Basically, that's kind of. It's sad. I think there are now more bad seasons of The Simpsons than good seasons of The Simpsons because there's just so many. So.
Yeah, the high point with The Simpsons for me I guess would have been I don't remember how old I was, but like the Mr. Burns murder thing, like when they were doing that.
Yeah. So like late 90s, early 2000s, or probably like peak Simpsons. And then like basically whenever that movie came out, which I think was like 2006, is probably when like the show completely fell off a cliff. So don't know if I'll get that far, but for now, I'll watch some episodes from time to time.
Awesome. All right, questions and comments. You can send us questions or comments using hashtag #AshDigitalDays, Facebook group, Twitter. There's a Discord thread for it. So you can, like Robert Cartwright did, non-gaming question. Do you ever binge watch new TV shows as soon as they are released? And if so, which, and was it worth it? The most recent thing that I would say that I have binged, other than like we just talked about, like Kim's Convenience, where Angela and I tend to probably watch 5 or 6 episodes in a row. I think like I probably the last would have been like Cobra Kai, like season 2 or 3. That was like the last thing that I probably like watched a significant chunk of it at like one time or in like one day. Other than that, there really hasn't been anything appealing to me. Like the first one, I guess the first thing that I would say that I like binged at one point in time was like House of Cards, but that was like on Netflix, and it was like, we're gonna release an entire season in one day, and like so yeah, there really hasn't been anything, and I also feel like some of them have just in the last couple of years have gone away from it. Like Disney Plus is not releasing they control Wednesdays now, whether it's Boba Fett or Mandalorian or or whatever. They control like Wednesday morning, whether WandaVision, all that stuff,
Yeah, it's weird how they picked Wednesday to be their go-to.
It used to be Friday.
It used to be TGIF. Yeah. So for me, it depends on the type of show. If it's like a drama, I probably prefer to just watch it one episode at a time and like once a week or once a night. But when it's like a comedy, I'll binge comedies. When I watch Kim's Convenience, I think I burned through the first 2 seasons within a week. Just because comedies tend to be shorter, so you can justify squeezing in an extra episode. But also, they're not challenging you. So like if it's a really good drama, sometimes you need to step away and be like, okay.
It's also like Kim's Convenience. Like, all right, I'm gonna get up and make some popcorn. Oh, you want me to pause it? No, it's fine. I'll listen to it in the kitchen. Versus a drama like, okay, I gotta go to the bathroom. Like, pause it. Like, and then I gotta sit down and get resituated to make sure I don't miss like something in the background or something.
Like, as much as I would have loved to binge WandaVision, I kind of needed that breather between episodes to like kind of analyze and put my own like thoughts into what they're going to do next, as opposed to if I just watched WandaVision in one day.
Right.
Like some shows you just need to take a step away from. So for me, it's like I just finished The Witcher like when it came out, and it took me like a week and a half, 2 weeks to watch all the episodes, but we weren't watching more than one episode a night. It was just one episode, walk away, discuss it, look up some theories, and then move on to the next episode the next day. But again, comedies, I just go right through them.
Yeah. Ali Bartle, I hope I'm saying your last name right. Sorry, Bartle. What game surprised you the most with how much you enjoyed it? Maybe it was something outside of your usual genre, or was free on Game Pass/Plus. Well, the first easy cop out for me is that, believe it or not, I was not a first-person shooter fan prior to Destiny, and there was a certain point in time in Destiny where it grabbed my attention and it put its hooks into me and just decided to like leech on and attach to me for the rest of my life. So I was not really into first-person shooters that much at that time. And And then the other thing that I would say, I guess like recently, like I checked it out because Drinkbox makes it, but like Nobody Saves the World was a surprise for me. I knew the writing was going to be good. I knew the art style was going to be good just based on the trailers and Drinkbox's history with Guacamelee. But I did enjoy the combat, and when they were like, oh, it's an asymmetrical RPG, I'm like, oh, I thought this was going to be like a Metroidvania, and then I really enjoyed it, and I got hooked into it, and I was like, all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, I'm going to upgrade this guy and upgrade this guy. I'm not as good as QWERTY in terms of how quickly QWERTY was able to like level up some of his characters and stuff, but I really had a good time with that, and I would have bought it either way. I feel like, you know, it being on Game Pass was just convenient. But it's one of those things where like the next thing the Drinkbox makes, I'm playing and buying, like just because I enjoy their stuff. So
yeah, you almost seem like you would probably double dip on some of their games. Like if they released like a collector's edition or something, you would totally be like, yeah, I'm getting that collector's edition, even though you're not that big of a collector. But
right,
you like
if they
that
do something
enough.
cool, like when it comes to PlayStation or the Switch, even if they do something cool with it, like if there's I don't even know, like a Nobody plushie, like I'll buy that. I had a good time with that game. Like I really enjoyed that, and I got like Drinkbox got their Game Pass money, but like, you know, getting it on the Switch or having a case like might be kind of cool. Like, so
yeah. For me, so the two games that stick out the most for me are Red Dead Redemption. I never really liked how Rockstar third-person games have played, and I wasn't a big cowboy fan. Like, Westerns were never my thing, and it actually took one of my friends on PSN back in the day to convince me and other people to buy the game. And he never lets us forget that, because every time we were playing like Killzone, he's like, you guys got to pick up Red Dead. For the multiplayer and the story, it's going to be amazing. We were all like, no, that game doesn't look good to us. Picked it up, loved the single player, and then put an unreasonable amount of time into that multiplayer, even though that multiplayer was kind of like bare bones for what it was. So Red Dead was definitely one of those games that I wasn't expecting to enjoy, and then I really got into it. And then the other one that comes to mind is just Overwatch. Like, I was really into competitive shooters at a time when I was younger, like high school days. And then I went like a really long time, like 5 to 8 years where I wasn't playing multiplayer games, and then got hooked into Overwatch over a beta weekend or something.
Yeah, you stopped like at Killzone 2 pretty much, right?
Yeah, like then, I dabbled in Killzone 3, and then that was it. And
then nothing again until Overwatch.
Yeah, and
I thought of another legitimate one that's not recent, or Destiny, by the way. When you finish, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so Overwatch is probably one, and then I got super into Overwatch, but I think same thing that happened with Killzone 2. I was super into Killzone 2, put thousands of hours into it, couldn't find anything since then. Got into Overwatch, put thousands of hours into it, and I haven't touched a multiplayer game.
Yeah,
like
and you've tried,
years.
Whether it's been Back 4 Blood or Rainbow Six Extraction, like you're trying to find that once a night or once a week or 2 nights a week game that you play with your buddies, and there's just nothing that's sticking right now for you.
Yeah.
And that's the main reason I stick with Destiny. The other one for me that was really surprising that I kind of went out on a limb, Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
And like I was like, okay, like it's a looter sort of, but it's not, and you can craft some stuff, and I really enjoyed that. I was playing with some friends, and then I kind of stopped, and I don't really know why I stopped. But you know, they kind of had that little gap in content, and I kind of just moved on and just never moved back. But I really enjoyed that.
Monster Hunter was for me where I always wanted to get into the franchise because it was always so big on the PSP in Japan, but they'd never had that multiplayer experience in the US. And then World came around, and I played the shit out of that.
Yeah.
But then it was when you beat the first major boss in that game where you think it's end game, and they're like, nuh-uh. You basically have new game plus. It's kind of where I fell off.
Yeah, and then the end game goes way up, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know,
the time commitment then just like jumped up even more, and I think that's when I pulled back towards like, oh, there's like new plus armor. Ah, shit, I can't do.
I gotta kill the same guy 6 times to hopefully get a fragment. Like, I don't know about that. Yeah. So, all right, that's our show for this week. A little bit shorter, not too bad. So expect like next week. That it won't be heavy Destiny yet, based on when we record. So because I'll just be kind of getting into Witch Queen then. I haven't decided if I'm going to stream Witch Queen or not. Like, it's one of those games where I could really pay attention to chat, I think, but at the same time, like, if this campaign or the story is supposed to be as good as they want it to be, it might be something I want to focus on by myself. But
Lights a candle.
Yeah, yeah, some Destiny auric. I got these Destiny candles that burn off certain like things to help me keep playing. Yeah, no. I was explaining to my wife like day one raid things, and she's like, "Yeah, I know you took the day off." I'm like, "Yeah, but it's gonna be like multiple hours." She's like, "Yep, it's not my first rodeo." Like she's like,
just points to the Funko Pops. I know, Dave.
For the record, sometimes she feeds that problem herself.
Okay.
So, but yeah, you can follow us on the main account. For Twitter is at Digital Days Pod. For Michael is at the First MJC. For myself is at Good Dave Hunt. Facebook group, Discord server, all linked in the show notes for you to check out. Patreon is there as well. So patreon.com/digitaldaysgaming. Teesprings is there. T-shirts, hoodies. It might be hoodie weather if you're going to start going outside and going to some stuff. Like, I was looking at, like, opening day Tiger tickets. My wife's like, yeah, I don't want to freeze my ass off. I'm good. But maybe if you're wearing a hoodie, it won't be as cold. I don't know. Reaching. So, check that stuff out. And other than that, that's all I got. Everybody keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick.